Recording in progress.
Hello, everybody. A warm welcome to another edition of our Across Retail Talk. My name is Reinhard Winiwarter. I'm the publisher of Across Magazine, and I'm very pleased that so many people across Europe are here today. Our today's topic, in my opinion, a very exciting one. How can shop floor experience increase brick-and-mortar retail? A top-class discussion group is ready, as always. Klaus Striebich will, as usual, lead this discussion as an expert moderator, and he is my master of ceremonies today. You can and you should take part in the discussion by asking questions. And in the next few days, we will send a summary and also a video of this discussion via our newsletter and website. So that's it from my side at the beginning. I now hand over to Klaus Striebich. Klaus, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Reinhard, and welcome back again to the third edition of Retail Talks from Across Magazine in 2024. Entertainment, shopping, food and beverage, rethinking brick-and-mortar retail by increasing the shop floor experience. This is the topic of today's session, and I promise there's a lot of things to learn, to hear, and of course also to adapt into the business. I have a great round with me, which I will introduce in a few seconds, but let me give you some, let's say, some words about the current situation. So the retail and the retail real estate industry is faced with a huge number of challenges so far. Changes in customer behavior, exogenous shocks, cost increases, and raising economical expectations. No doubt a going concern is no longer valid, and many things have to be changed, adapted, and optimized to ensure a positive and bright future. This Across Retail Talk touches on the reason why and the how the remodeling and operating of offline retail has to be made run better. But honestly, what exactly is retail? How is retail to be defined? What is the role of retail in brick-and-mortar stores? Are we still living in the age of supply and demand? Is the discussion about the third place still valid, and what is needed to please the customer and the business owners at the same time? Our environment is getting more and more complex and difficult to handle. Multiple crises, recession, and this combined with infinite information and the media, as well as higher complexity in the decision-making processes due to legal requirements or political requests. If we do ask AI about the success factors of retail and leisure, we need to focus on customer centricity, environment and atmosphere, variety of offers, digital integration, qualification of employees, marketing and communication, and sustainability. Collaborations are forcing these complexities, but maybe they hold tons of opportunities. Let's have a look and find a proper solution with this fantastic panel round who are today with us. I would love to start to introduce you to our first timer, Johannes Berentzen from BBE. Johannes, would you love to give us a little insight who you are and what you're doing? Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Klaus. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon. I'm Johannes Berentzen. I'm 45 years young, Managing Director of BBE Handelsberatung in Munich. I have more than 15 years of experience in advising retailers on strategic and operational challenges. A long time ago, I studied business administration at the University of Münster. I did my doctorate there on private label management, another exciting retail topic. So what do we do at BBE Handelsberatung? Well, BBE has been advising retailers, cooperatives, the real estate industry, and local authorities for over 70 years now. And with a team of about 180 consultants, we provide many services throughout Germany and most recently Austria. The services ranging from strategic development and market analysis to digital commerce consulting and also property management. In other words, Klaus, we cover everything in retail, whether it's bricks, clicks, or the bits in between.
Sounds like you are the best for us in the discussion. Let's start later with the first question to the consultant.
I do my very best.
The very first timer is Tim Wilks from Lane7. Welcome, Tim. We are extremely curious to hear what you are doing.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Klaus. Yes, so I founded and own a company called Lane7. We've been going since 2012. Lane7 is a boutique bowling concept. It's relatively premium, and we generally place it in city centres, fresh air on high streets, or occasionally in shopping centres. We've expanded over the years into 3 brands, varying from sites from 800 metres squared to 8,000. We're currently operating 20 sites, of which we've just opened Berlin at the weekend. So our growth rate is strong, but we're looking to move more into mainland Europe at the moment. And the next development for our business really is we've gained our reputation for being a very, very good bowling operator, but we're going to move into a wider leisure business. So we plan to have 6 brands ranging from sites that can occupy 200-300 square meters, all the way up to that 8,000 square meters. So we'll have a number of brands that suit different sites in different locations.
Which country do you cover, Tim, currently, or which cities?
So we are spread pretty much through the biggest cities all the way through the UK. We're on site with 2 in Ireland, which we like to class as Europe. It's better for the story. We are open in Berlin currently, and we're under negotiation on a couple more sites in mainland Europe. So we open 8 to 10 sites a year at the minute. We're fast. We've actually achieved that this year by the end of the year, and we plan to blend that to be at 5 and 5 within 18 months into Europe. So we're transitioning over the next 2 or 3 years.
Sounds very interesting, and I hope we can go deeper in the details later in our discussion, Tim. Thanks for that. And a very warm welcome to my colleague of the board, Silvio Kirchmair, a second timer in our crosstalk, the CEO of umdasch. Welcome back, Silvio, and let's give us a brief intro about umdasch's activities.
Yeah, thank you very much, Klaus. Also, thanks for having me here. I'm obviously the oldest kid in town. I'm 63 years old. All my professional career, I've been working in either construction industry or furniture industry or oil and gas industry, which is a big exception on that. I have been working for the umdasch Group since 2013, and to correct a little bit, I'm not the CEO of umdasch, I'm the CEO of the umdasch store makers, which is part of the group. Just to give you a short introduction to the group, umdasch Group is based headquartered in Austria, a 156-year-old company, family owned. We employ around about 10,500 people with several pillars. One of them is Doka, which is construction industry, and all what we do, umdasch Group is grouped on the life cycle of a building, and that's that we create spaces is the mission, basically what we're doing. Just 1 sentence or 2 sentences to the store makers. We will reach this year around about 300 million euros. We are number 3 as a shop fitter in Europe, number 5, 6, or 7 globally. I don't know that really exactly. And we love what we do. Our mission is, and our vision also is, we make successful stores, and this is what we would like to discuss this time.
We need to discuss that, Silvio, because we want to hear from you lots of examples, what you think is the best way how to operate retail or leisure and retail in the near future. Thanks for being with us, and we're extremely curious to hear more. So let's get started. When we talk about retail and entertainment in retail, everybody talks firstly about, let's say, who is the footfall driver. And there is, of course, a management of retail real estate needed. And if you ask shopping mall operators, they always say, okay, we need to be finance KPI driven, means there's finance numbers. I would love to start with the consultant, Johannes, if you allow, and you ask him which KPI drives retail today really for stakeholders, maybe what are the consequences of changing from finance driven to XYZ driven? What's your point of view on that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Klaus. Yeah, I strongly believe that retail is no longer just about the financial KPIs like revenue per square meter. There are physical stores where you can't even buy anything on site, e.g. the WoW Concept store in Madrid. So at least you have to take like online sales, service sales, or retail media revenues into account. But for me, customer experience is now the ultimate KPI. That means factors such as customer satisfaction or recommendation rate or conversion, they have become central to measuring success. And this shift means that retailers need to rethink spaces as places for engagement. I think you will tell us a lot about that, Tim. So, but not just sales. So when you imagine that as a causal model, that helps measure the impact of the experience per square meter concept. And maybe I can give you like a short explanation because it's a little bit abstract. Every time when I talk about experience per square meter, the clients ask, yeah, but you can't measure it. But I think, yeah, you can measure it. The causal model links customer experiences to like measurable outcomes. So we don't just look at traditional sales per square meter anymore. Instead, we focus on formative constructs like the atmosphere, like interaction, services. So these factors directly influence how customers perceive their shopping experience. And of course, there are reflexive constructs like customer satisfaction, loyalty, or engagement. And these are measurable results of the experiences. So on the one hand, you have the formative constructs. On the other hand, you have the reflexive constructs. And the combination of these factors allows us to build KPIs around the experience per square meter. It's not that easy to measure like sales per square meter, that's for sure. But we think we should focus on what truly matters. So that's creating spaces that resonate with customers. So in my opinion, today and tomorrow, experience per square meter is the new gold standard. It's about creating value that, we mentioned, resonates with the customers. So resonates with the customers long after they leave the store. Quite brief.
Got it. I do remember very well in the past that sales per square meter was the one and only number. So everything was related to sales per square meter because it was extremely easy to be measured. It was easily to be calculated. And of course, each and everything depends on that number. If I got it right, Johannes, you said, okay, there's much more to know. So meanwhile, so if you discuss on experience per square meter, you need to know how much people do enter a store, how much people have a longer dwell time, how much people do spend money, how much money do they spend. So that's a huge number of additional numbers which are related. The output should be a better profit, a better result at the very end. I think that's obvious. Is that, don't take me wrong, something for a consultancy because it sounds a bit more complex, or is it a sheer need in the near future?
Yeah, let me put it this way, Klaus. We love to have everyone to like to work with this construct, but I think it's just it's absolutely needed in the future that you just don't only take like the sales per square meter, as I mentioned in the example at WoW Concept in Madrid. The sales per square meter every day is nil. So what do you do with this sales per square meter? So you have to take other things into account. And so when you have to measure like maybe social media interaction and everything that's around the place among just selling products, you have to have good data. So I think we can come up to this point later on. Data is one, and techniques or technology is one of the base factors you need to have a construct like customer experience to measure it.
Silvio, that sounds a little bit like paradise if not no longer sales per square meter or cost per square meter maybe on place number one on the agenda of the retailers. You as a store makers guy, what does it mean for you and your discussion to make it run? What has to be done by umdasch, for example, to realize these new concepts?
Yeah. First of all, Klaus, I need to say I would say around 3 out of 4 stores, let's say about 80% of stores, still the traditional KPIs, like you mentioned, the productivity, revenue per square meter, or conversion rate, or revenue per hour, revenue per employee is still valid. But for around 10 to 20, more probably 20% of the stores, it's already a little bit different. It's not anymore efficiency. There are other drivers, and we could call them quality of experience. We were told by many of our customers that a store has to be Instagrammable. And for example, a very important number to measure that is not only duration of stay, which is also very important for every kind of experimental world, also the footfall of people compared to the people passing by. But the most important figure I have experienced the last few years is the number of social media reactions on a store. And one of the best examples I've ever experienced is Nike House of Innovation in Paris, which is a 5-story store next to Arc de Triomphe on Champs-Élysées. It's also a real store, so you can buy Nike products there, but at least 4 out of the 5 stories are different. They are there to tell a story. And they measure the reactions in the internet every day. Just to give a practical example also here, which is not related to retail, but I think is important to all of us. Everybody, I think, can remember on the presidential debate some 3 weeks ago between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump told a story about the people who are eating cats and eating dogs. This message had a reaction of 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion social media reactions, and 75% of them were negative, but it was 1.5 billion reactions, meaning 20% of the globe has reacted on that. And this is what, of course, this is a campaign, but this is also what many of our customers are looking for. They're looking for media reactions. They're looking for social media reactions, which is then a sort of exploding their footprint on the global scale.
I totally agree. On the other hand, a retailer always asks, how could that be monetized? And we have Tim with us, and there's a reason, because he's representing the entertainment and leisure industry. And I'm extremely curious to hear your view on that and how you work on this kind of, let's say, experience per square meter, Instagrammable points, or let's say dwell time. Tim, it's your turn now.
Yeah, I think that we've never measured sales per square meter. It's just too blunt an instrument for a market like ours. I think just going back to the previous point, I think that when you use something like a Nike store, that's fine if you've got a global brand. But I think with younger consumers, there is a love-hate relationship with brands, certainly in the UK. So when they want to go out for food or to drinks, they will shun a chain because they are cookie cutter and they are obvious. You know what you'll get with every experience. But at the same time, for those bigger brands that are more transactional, more regular, they will kind of buy into that and they will go back to that Nike store, that certain department store for whatever that purchase happens to be, for socks or underpants, something quite a boring transaction. So I think one size doesn't fit all because you need a blend within your shopping centre or your bigger estate. And that point, segues exactly into our business. That's how we've grown, because we offer that blend. All of our sites are designed uniquely to the location we go to. And sometimes we take sites that are slightly bigger than what we want them to be ideally, but the landlord has a clear requirement for 3,000 square metres, and we would right size to 2. But if the deal is correct, we're happy to fill that space to offer the experience that the landlord wants. But that comes at a cost because, that might be a unit that's oversized for us and the landlord doesn't want those subdivisions parts. One of the biggest things that we concentrate on is dwell time. So you need a hook, but one hook isn't good enough. If you take a single hook, a single pre-book item, then people will come and treat you as a transactional business. They'll come and be gone within 60 minutes. So you want a product that's in high demand, so like bowling, and then we want lots and lots of other things baked around that, 7 or 8 other options that are cheaper to put in and have more volume so that people are willing to play them pre or post that main footfall driver. And in doing that, you can then start to build up huge dwell time. One of the biggest things that we do that is very, very unusual in this space is, much like a restaurant, everyone gets offered credit if they want it. So we know we make very few frictional barriers for payment. So if we go over and say, would you like another hour of pool or ping pong, karaoke, golf, whatever activity they're on, they can just say, yes, we'll go with like some more drinks or food, and we can order that up and bring them over to them, and then they will only pay at exit. So some of our more successful sites, we can get dwell times on Saturdays in excess average of 3 hours. And in the case of Edinburgh St James, we, in the last 2 years, we've taken 400,000 plus 400,000 people through that site, 2 years on the bounce. So, you know, our market is definitely growing. It's not a one size fits all, and not every site will bring you 400,000 customers. We're without doubt part of the reinvention, certainly in the shopping. And I say shopping because there's, in a shopping centre, there's less bags in hands, and shopping centres are becoming more of a day out experience. So we are part of that evolution and reinvention of what a day out into a city centre or a shopping centre is. You know, we've been doing this for over a decade, and we're only seeing that gaining pace all the time.
Got it. Tim, let me stick on 2 questions. On the one hand, dwell time is key, you mentioned. So dwell time means maybe higher sales, higher spending, whatever it is. How could you manage it? How often do you change your offers? So you offer on the one hand every day a glass of beer or a Coke, whatever, but I think there's much more need. This is question number 1. How can you improve dwell time? That it's not feeling boring. And on the other side, how could you retain people in the customer to come back again? It's one of the key factors of a retail store to make it happen that the shopper will come back again, not with the goods, but with the reason to shop more. Yeah. What is done at Lane7 or in your other concepts?
So one of the best and worst things to ever happen to retail, we've discussed it all already, is the mobile phone. So expectation now before you go and experience something is world class for a consumer. So if you were 18, you've never been to a nightclub 20 years ago, your first experience of a nightclub was unbelievable because you'd never seen one before. But now someone will just go on Instagram, look at world's best nightclubs. They'll see something incredible in Las Vegas, and their bar for expectation is now here. So this has meant that you always get these requirements from retailers for constant evolution, Instagrammable moments, because this attention span for wow factor is diminishing all the time. As more and more retailers jump in, the bar is getting higher, the demands then get higher from the consumer, and you never get off it. So we bake in about 25% of our floor area to be relatively a space that can be reinvented at relatively low cost. So if we find a new hook, a new form of entertainment that we feel is relevant, and I'll give a good example, is VR. VR we feel is great at the minute. Since we've bought plenty of rigs, we know they are probably a 2 or 3 year hit, and then that will die away, and that is showing already. So we put VR into some of our sites. It's performed very, very well, ROI, great pre-book. And then as we're looking to move that off the end of our conveyor belt, we'll look to reinvest in that 20% of that site, for example, what's the next new thing? And that kind of handles both parts of that question. It's the reinvention for people to come back, you know, and it's giving them a constant element of change and invigoration of what the brand can be.
And how often does that take place? Last question.
Well, I think we follow the numbers in that sense. Change for change's sake is pointless. So, you know, we if something is consistently, if all your resources were consistently in high demand, let's say, even in off-peak times, there'd be the data would tell you not to change that. But if you have a high-performing site and something drops off a little bit, then that would maybe start conversation of change. Depends on how good a site, how well a site performs as to when you'd enact that change into the site.
Okay.
Klaus, sorry.
Silvio, please.
Just a reaction to Tim and Klaus. So, I mean, you're fully right. The time which people spend in an area is, of course, a gold standard. But it's a one-to-one relation. And I would like to add that you need to activate people to multiply that. 1 hour is 60 minutes, and it will be not more. So if you are able to achieve a situation that then these people who spend time in your store or in your area motivate and activate others to do the same, meaning that's the way via social media, then you have won.
That was one of the questions I would love to forward also to Johannes. If we try to adapt it for the retail areas, what has to be done there to make it happen? Johannes?
Yeah, as we already discussed, the role of the retail space is no longer just like selling goods. So the physical stores must become experience and service hubs that engage and excite customers. And yeah, sales are directly connected to dwell time, that what we see in projects, except it's time for searching or looking for products. It's not the dwell time we need, yeah. With customers that they are able to shop from their own sofa with one click, the physical stores need to offer more than just products. So they need to offer experience that make it worth leaving the front door. It's like transaction costs you have, and they're a lot higher when you have to go to the physical store than when you're just sitting on your own sofa and can buy everything with one click. And when it comes to e-commerce, you know, the how to put it, the lubricating oil of the digital sales machine is called cheap and discount. So I think that traditional retail cannot compete with these cost structures. So we need some changes. Yeah, customers they are well prepared nowadays. They know what they want, even often better than the store staff. So this changes the game. Retail must like evolve from a place of education to a place of inspiration. So I think that is one of the mind shifts you have to make.
Got it. So I love the word from Tim when he said, okay, listen, timing is not relevant. It depends on how much the consumer are, let's say, related to that stuff. And the better it is, the faster it could be changed, or the longer it will be remaining on that side. Silvio, from your point of view as umdasch store makers, I think you have seen thousands of concepts meanwhile. Have you seen retail stores or concepts where the change in the fit out was that fast that it is somehow unpredictable? Because whether it was weak or successful. Do you have some examples in mind?
Honestly, to the direct answer, no. First of all, I think Tim said change for the sake of change is not a good concept because it just creates extra cost. So of course we need to have flexibility. That's for sure. We recommend honestly our customers to have a sort of constant change, but not a complete one. So we would not recommend the concept of pharmacies where you change the pharmacy every 40, 50 years, and then it's a very big investment. We really recommend our customers to have gradual changes, basically constantly, just to offer surprises, to offer new aspects, but not to do dramatic change permanently. Of course, if your concept is wrong, you see it doesn't work, then you might have to. But if the concept in principle is working, then the gradual change, to our opinion, is the better solution.
So a permanent improvement, which is one of the best, I would say, key takeaways for today's session, is much better than waiting 15 years for the next, let's say,
for sure,
fit out or retrofit. Very good.
Yeah.
I love the word surprise. I waited for that word, and this is for me a buzzword, because I think surprise is one of the leading factors making consumers consuming. Tim, at Lane7, if we talk about, let's say, bowling lines or food and beverage, and it's not these cases where I see surprise at the first stage. How do you surprise the customers in your entertainment areas or stores or concepts?
Yeah, so we've always used the word entertain, but it's one and the same really. It's the nuance between them in what we do. I think, you know, it's things like in most of our sites we don't operate with food. We offer a small kitchen that's fully kitted out, and we will work with the local food vendor who we think is relevant to our kind of offer. and we will do a short-term contract of, let's say, 6 or 12 months with them. And that, again, just gives you that element to surprise or entertain the customer base, so that when they come in, there might be a brand that they were out in the city somewhere, and the street food van they were buying out might have taken a short-term pop-up bricks and mortar. I think it's that aspect of, I think Johannes mentioned that, often consumers know more about the product than people working in the stores. I absolutely agree with that. Again, mobile phone internet has meant that consumers are so knowledgeable now. So it's about listening to them and just giving them what they want. And that sounds actually really silly and basic, but often brands are trying to give them, are still stuck in this element that they know far more than the consumer. But consumers are so varied. So we're trying constantly in our business to tailor to every group, whether that's private hire or just a group of 2 that come in, allowing them to pick their pathway around the business and trying to, where possible, let them curate their own best experience of a Lane7 or a Gutterball. And I think then they can surprise themselves effectively.
Klaus, maybe in addition what Tim just said, I think customers just don't want surprises, but they want convenience. And they're also looking for experiences that will surprise them. I think that's a slightly different point of view. No one likes surprises.
Yeah.
And the young in particular, they take seamless omnichannel integration for granted now. That's nothing that surprises anybody anymore. So now it's about offering something unique, like the examples you gave to us, Tim, like personalized service, like interactive elements, or even immersive environments. So in retail, I think predictability is the greatest enemy of excitement. And you need just the right mix of tech and creativity so you can transform a visit into experience. And I think a very good example of this is Saturn's experience space on Alexanderplatz in Berlin. I don't know if you have been there. You can't even buy anything there. It's just like an immersive experience space for all casual gamers, streamers. You can try it all out. And you can, of course, buy some of the stuff in the other spaces from Saturn that are in the, I think, first 4 floors. So a great example for me for a really immersive experience where you are definitely surprised when you go to the arena with 400 seats and the streaming cabins and all that stuff.
Can I just say that often a lot of the conversation at this point is about sort of evolution of where retail or leisure has been and where it's going to. It's revolving around large amounts of cash. I won't give these, examples of a Nike store or this store on Alexanderplatz. It's big budget. I think that what we're talking about is actually it's about creativity. A lot of brands through the 90s, 2000s had really strict brand standards, one size fits all, and actually the consumer loved that. They used to love to go to Edinburgh and see a shoe store and know if they went to the one in Manchester, it was the same experience. Actually, it's been turned on its head. Consumers don't want the predictable same experience. So it's about creativity. And I say that because we signed a site in a shopping centre and we had to go through the R1, R2 experience of getting our shop front signed off. And we gave them a Lane7 style creative mood board. And they didn't particularly want that. They wanted us to fit more into what everyone else was like us around us. And our point was, well, why have you courted us for this deal? You knew what we look like, you know what you'll get. And they were just a bit nervous about offering something different. But our point was, well, you came to us because you wanted to be different. You need to make sure everyone in your organization knows what you're trying to achieve. And it's that slight boldness. Creativity comes with the unknown when you try new things. You need to have some bold people, depending on what organization you're in, big or small. You need to have some bold characters to be able to allow creativity to flourish, really.
Yeah, I have a discussion about budgets. Silvio, I come back to that in a second to you, because if you have a big budget like Nike or other big brands, that's somehow easy to create something unusual or spectacular. But we need to focus also on the so-called small retailers who have little budget, but also have the same need to, let's say, entertain their customers. And to come back to the word of surprise, I changed it into expectation. So, you know, expectation is a line. If you're above, it's enthusiasm. If you're below, it's disappointment. So the question is how to manage that line properly well. Silvio, now it's your turn.
Yeah, I also wanted to reflect to the word surprise. I do not fully, maybe we don't disagree, but basically a surprise, I don't feel it that negative, because there are positive and negative surprises. But we might find each other and say, and I do not know who invented that sentence. I think it was Selfridges, but potentially I'm wrong. But they said, you have to disrupt a customer, you have to inspire the customer, and you have to activate the customer. So it's a sort of disruption, it's a sort of inspiration, and then the activation will follow. And this is what I think what a brick and mortar store should still deliver, because then the turnover per square meter, or whatever it is, and the average KPI would hopefully be higher.
Good. So let's talk about the situation how retail and entertainment could benefit from each other. How could that work? We talked somehow about retailers, and we talked about, let's say, entertainment, but there's also a mix. Just to build a bridge for you. So my most favorite concepts currently where retail and entertainment is combined is, for example, you mentioned somehow Starbucks Roastery or the M&M store with the choco lenses sold in a 3,000 square meter store, or even, if you have heard of it, the Johnny Walker store in Edinburgh, which is a rebuilt department store, 6,000 square meter around, let's say, Scottish whiskey. I do not know whether you have done it, Silvio, umdasch, but maybe you have heard of it.
I've heard of it, but we have not done it, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah? All the other brands will come to you and hopefully manage. But what is it? What I think you have heard of it and seen it. What is your view on that? And how could retail benefit from entertainment and the other way around? That will be the question for the other two as well.
So I have to tell, unfortunately, we only do 3 to 4 stores out of 100 in Europe. Unfortunately, the one in Edinburgh we did not do. So, I mean, yeah, you know, in that area, you do have sort of collaborative events, and this is for sure beneficial for both parties or for all the parties involved, as long as a strategy is supported. So now, of course, I'm following retailers' view. Corporate partnerships, they are good as long as it's complementary. So what is, for example, and what could be examples? Car retailer and electronics. So car plus an iPhone, for example, would help each other. Electronics, including services, if they cooperate, that would help each other. Luxury retail and theater and entertainment, if corporations are there, that they would help each other. Books and traveling, that will help. Sports and sports events. For example, we had, for example, a cooperation for Lululemon and the sports retailer. And the sports retailer was changed into an educational area in the evening. So, of course, the store was redesigned, basically, or redone for the people to do their yoga courses, something like that. So if it's complementary, then it really helps. If a certain site says now we have to reduce our prices by 25%, and all of us do that on the same day, yeah, that will increase footfall, but it's not necessarily the case that it will support the strategy of a certain retailer. So it should be complementary. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, and what would you recommend Tim to what kind of retail should he, let's say, put into his Lane7 concept as a complementary retail activity?
We're actually, it's taken a lot longer than we'd like, but we're actually working with a very large sort of sports brand at the minute to try and make us, in partnership, make our own line of bowling shoes. And I think, you know, the win here is that I totally agree. Any partnership where it's based on discounting by alignment is, I think those days are totally gone. I think this is about the synergy of bringing the brands and their followers together. So you want 2 brands that have the same client base, with the same interests, same spend habits, age demographics. And when you bring them together, you know that one, in theory, should like each other's products. And then you get that kind of alchemy from that. So not all relationships have to be equal as well, because in the case of the footwear brand we're working with, they're far bigger than us, but sometimes working with a smaller brand can bring credibility and kudos. kudos is not always from the biggest brands. Sometimes it's been by small, agile, and by being independent. I think the biggest kind of pros and cons of this is where you're seeing independent businesses in the brewery industry being hoovered up by the multinationals. And as soon as they bought, the loyal client base who loved it, it wasn't really about the beer, it was about the culture around being independent. So they all leave when it gets bought out. So I think there are alignments between brands are everywhere, and I actually think this will only get bigger and bigger and bigger. Again, I come back to it's just imagination and creativity. Can the people inside these businesses be allowed to go where their mood boards have already taken them, really?
Johannes, if I ask you what kind of accommodation you will have for your retailers, what complementary entertainment should be put in to be more successful in the near future to fulfill that needs? What is your idea, or what is your accommodation for retailer? How to be complementary with entertainment, or what kind of collaboration would you suggest?
Yeah, Klaus, I think collaboration is just key to keeping things fresh and engaging. One example at the KaDeWe, also in Berlin, I read I have about 400 pop-ups a year. So you can go there like once a week and discover something new every time you go there. But as you know, we have a lot of small and medium-sized clients, and we talked a lot about creativity. And not every time that is just linked to high budgets. So we have a lot of wonderful clients that have little very budgets, but a lot of creativity. Like do fashion shows or something just creative in the social media with some of the young people working there. So yeah, I think collaborative partnerships, they just extend beyond marketing. You know, that's another question. What is the marketing budget? You mentioned the Nike store or the Johnny Walker store. I think a lot of what they do there is marketing budget, but not like a sales-driven place. So that's very hard for our small and medium-sized retailers. They don't have that marketing budget. So what will I recommend? Yeah, to stay creative and yeah, to like maybe get the balance between digital convenience and physical engagement. So if you haven't already done so, you have to invest into technology for omnichannel integration, because when you do things at social media, even when it comes to AI, it's quite cheaper and faster than it has been years ago to engage with customers with classic media, for example. Yeah.
Got it. So let's take a little bit on examples, if you allow. So there's a very famous German example of a fashion department store called L&T in Osnabrück.
Yes.
Please Google it because they have a standing surfing wave in-house in their sporting house, which sounds somehow spectacular and somehow unusual that everybody talks about it. Even it's now 2-3 years old, and it's a big budget issue. But do you have some smaller examples from, let's say, a 200 square meter boutique in mind, what they could do, or maybe 300 square meters boutique, what they could do to have a little bit more entertainment aspects in? And Tim, that will be yours, if Johannes has answered. What could you provide to these guys from your point of view to make it successful, the 300 square meters boutique? Johannes, first, please.
Yeah, I have one example in mind. My wife worked for Lush for some years, you know, the soap company, and they have like washing shows, and they have that's a very important point. They have all the data. They know how many customers are in the store, what is the conversion rate, how many budget we did last week, last year, and so on. So she worked there as a shop floor manager, and when the measures goes down, like not enough conversion, they go outside and do like washing hands and feet, and they like celebrating every customer come in. They even have like I don't know what was it called, like a surprise when a customer is interested in a product but can't afford it, and they secretly give it to them in the bag. Every of the employees can do this once a week, and it's not depending on the price of the product. And it's I think it was called like Little Act of Kindness, and it was the paper in it. You were interested in that product, and it's a gift from us. And that's important thing. I think Silvio already mentioned it. They will tell like the whole world on social media that happened. Yeah, they get a gift, and they just secretly find it out. They find it out when they got home. I think even the way they present their goods at Lush, and sometimes it's only 50 to 100 square meters. So you can do it in very small spaces as well.
Any accommodation for the small boutiques, Tim, from your side? What they should do?
Yeah. No, this has been, I mean, in terms of sort of retailment or competitive socializing, call it what you like, within our world. The issue is that everything to date has been a landlord wants to be able to sell an asset or be able to value it against a longer term lease. So you're pulled into long leases. Also, our fit outs are very, very, very expensive. So we want a longer term lease in order to get our return. We've been shown lots and lots of units which are smaller or maybe available for 2 or 3 years in fantastic locations with huge footfall. So something we've been working on, when I mentioned in the intro that we're looking at, 5, 6, possibly 7 brands. A couple of those we're looking at as temporary and pop-up, because there's fantastic, you can build a brand from this as well, we feel, where we're looking to work with landlords on empty spaces that are very easy for us to almost cuckoo in at low cost with fantastic gaming. A lot of it is tech-led, so it's quite low install costs. We can fit out in a week, and then we can trade for 1 year or 2 years. And the benefit is that we can improve our sort of brand awareness. We get the kudos from the creativity, going back to being, as we're getting bigger, we want to stay relevant. What made us that? By being independent. And also the landlord can get really good activation in what might be an awkward unit, or whilst you're waiting to amalgamate 4 or 5 smaller units into something bigger for a big, big retailer that you've got on the hook. So we've absolutely identified this kind of smaller unit space. The key thing is that if we're only there for 24 months, we've got to make sure we can get in and trading for a relatively low cost, and also that whatever we put in there, whatever that game is, whether that drawer is, that we can repackage it and take it somewhere else. Much like a musician moving their tour from night to night, we want that same principle. So in fact, I think we've got some press coming out today, but I might be wrong on the exclusivity on something we've signed actually. So we have something coming out in a few days, and this is the kind of product that we can place this into.
Thanks, Tim, for that. The first question has arisen from the audience. So the question was all about data. So lots of retailers and lots of concepts are collecting data to optimize their business. Silvio, I know that umdasch Store Makers has also some, let's say, offers for the retailers to combine the data which are available or which are collected, are transported and adapted for the next concept generation. How do you see that, and how do you manage that? Having data in mind, and how to transport or transform it into the next level of shop fitting?
Yeah. So basically, there are a lot of very interesting concepts already in the market. What I see is that the preparation for the investment of many retailers is not as high as it could be. Just to give you an example, for a company which is active in the telephone business, let's start with first of a fashion retailer. We have provided for them a program which combines what is on stock in that store, how is the weather out there, who is the person who's in front of a screen, is it old white man or is it young children, and a few other things combined. And so then the customer would get suggested also what has been sold last 7 days, very good. What is, as I said, is it wet out there? Is it the sun is shining? So all this data is then combined to proposals what to buy basically. And that has increased, and then the people see on the screen some sort of proposal for them, which is dedicated to the person. It's not directed to it, but it's a group of persons. And we experienced that the preparation to buy these goods for the people is around about 30 to 50% higher. So it has a direct impact on the persons. Nevertheless, it's of course an investment. You have to have invested in AI, and most of the customers test it in some stores, 2 or 3, say, look, it is worthwhile. There's a return. Nevertheless, the investment overall is that big that we'll just have some flagship stores which are basically supported with that. So there are a lot of technological opportunities already on the market. Nevertheless, to be prepared to really invest is still limited. At least this is what we experience in our digital retail activity.
But if I'm right in mind, you are offering somehow data services, heat mapping, all that stuff.
We are offering all of that. We are of course also preparing, supporting our customers to run their digital out of home and all the equipment, or which I wanted to tell before, and which is a big group in the telephone industry. There, the system knows who has entered the store. Does this person have a contract with that company, or does it have contract with, when did the person buy last time an iPhone? So does he have the iPhone 12? So we can suggest the iPhone 15 and so. And this is then presented as a sort of dedicated advertisement, which is seen on a screen in front of the person in the store. And these opportunities are, as I said, it's possible today. That's with our technology. It's even not that costful. Nevertheless, you have to support it for the rest of your life. Basically, you have your data has always be accurate. So that's potentially a sort of hurdle. But I'm quite sure that all these technological steps will be done within the next 5 to 10 years on a wider scale.
Can I ask what about pushback from younger consumers? They're drinking, certainly in the UK, they're drinking less. They're probably more aligned politically on a fairer world, distribution of wealth. What about when they push back about their data being sold back to, if they do it? What about the negative of that? If you get a revolt against, I don't want you to own me in the way that you're describing the customer. Is there another route that isn't so built on maximum scraping of someone's personal data that generally they've never given away? Because
there are some effects. For example, of course, first of all, we have to, of course, to stick with the law and the regulation in Europe. So if you would you're a customer, you enter a store and you see a screen, and the screen says, "Hello, Mr. So and so," people would be offended. This is not the way, because then this is some sort of, how shall I put that? This is already not. This is not democracy. This is dictatorship. Basically, people know too much, or companies do know too. So it should not be too specific. But of course, you should hopefully meet the demand of the people, and that's of course that's walking on the edge. But if you do it correct, it helps.
Yeah, and I think Klaus, for many years, data and transparency has been like an unfair advantage of e-commerce players, because I give you an example. Benjamin Otto told me once, he found it about you. He told me once, if you'd have done 10 clicks on the About You page, maybe I know more about you than your parents. It was a little bit overrated, but I think there are now technologies that can even anonymously track the customer's way through a store, how long he is at a certain space, which brands he interacts with. So I think that the retailers and the physical retailers can use data a lot more and better than it was like years before. And even social media comes into place when it goes to data.
Absolutely. Before we come to an end, because time is running, it's unbelievable. We have another question from the audience. So the question is, do you have examples of retailers with very innovative concepts in store in Europe, covering all the topics we have discussed, retailers or entertainments? I would love to start with my 2 funny examples. One of my retail favorites is Lego. Honestly, still. My son is meanwhile a little bit older for it, but I'm still in love with Lego. And there's a German entertainment concept. We have it on our stage last week on the Congress, which is called Karl's Strawberry Villages, which is 6, I would say, lifestyle villages out of town, all around strawberries. You can't believe it or not, it's an absolute success story and a funny situation where you combine entertainment with lots of retail activities. So what are your most innovative retail or entertainment concepts around Europe before we come to the final round? Who wants to start?
I don't mind. I caught in the hop. You took the words out of my mouth. I like seeing a Lego store, but it's because certainly in the UK they're very, very selective about their requirements and where they go. And generally, I see a queue to get in, and I think wherever you can create a queue for, which is Lego truly is, it's just a transactional.
What's your favorite, Tim?
My favourite, I like watching from a point of view of a retail, out-and-out retail. I think Lego's superb because it is just standard retailing, but we've made it into an experience and in a very small square foot unit generally. So return per square foot, their sales, their interaction with the consumer, every part of it is ticked. But I think part of the beauty of it is the fact that they're not everywhere. They're selective to the big alpha cities, certainly in the UK. So as an actual out-and-out retailer, I think they're absolutely superb.
Okay, Johannes, what is your most favorite innovative retail?
Yeah, of course, with 4 little kids, I'm a big Lego fan as well. But I already mentioned the experience space in Berlin. I think they did a very good job. It's really like an immersive store experience. And I don't know if it's on now or it's not gone live, but I don't know if you heard about the concept store Buttery. It's a Buttery from Lars Goldenbogen, which is like a experience space where you pay to enter, and it's only a little bit retail, but it's a lot of social media interactions and stages and all about that. So I don't know when the first one will open, but this is like really, I think, going far into the future.
Cool. Silvio?
The Buttery is the name.
Okay,
I mean, honestly, I would also have started with Lego because I have 2 grandsons now, and Lego is fantastic. You get your own picture. You take a picture of you, and you get all the stones to create your own picture. That's fantastic. But there are some other examples. I really like Fressnapf very much. Fressnapf in Germany. No, they're not only in Germany. They are basically all over Europe. At least 11 countries. They have built a pet world. And this is really already a society. I mean, people who have pets, they love it. For sure, Apple is fantastic. Still, they are. The whole concept is fantastic. Harrods is something which is outstanding in all the areas. And there's one idea, which is a sports, a smaller one, which is Bründel in Austria. You might know them. The way how they treat the customer is really fantastic. It's just imagine in Kaprun, which is the biggest store with around about 2,500 square meters. There are 80 employees, and these 80 employees provide 17 languages. So if you are from China, they talk to you in Mandarin. If you are from Russia, okay, not that many Russians for the time there, then they talk in Russian to you. You get your glass of Prosecco, you get your glass of Schnaps right at the beginning. So really serve you from the first second. And then the way how they are experts, the people there is really fantastic. So there are fantastic concepts. Most of them are also deal with this sort of receive your customer as a guest.
Yeah, super examples. Thanks for that. The question is whether we could spell the names of the stores here. Bründel is BRU_NDL.
Yeah, exactly.
And Buttery, I would say it's BUZZERY.
Exactly.
Okay, super. I hope that fits. I think you can Google it as well. So we have 3 minutes to go. Each of one has 30 seconds. For the last 3 commendations to the audience and the industry, what would you commend to work for a brighter future? What are your key success factors for a brighter future? 30 seconds each. Tim, would you love to start?
Yeah, so I think in relation to sort of my relationship with landlords and property, I think that the biggest thing is flexible design. If you're building new build, the world's changing quick, so don't just design your units for retail. The knock-on to that is also one of the biggest hurdles for people taking bricks and mortar is the ongoing costs of service charge. So that, again, doesn't mean that you don't have to have good design, but I think more consideration needs to be taken into the long-term running costs. And then, as I probably said, even though we're getting a larger business, I think that for retail to be successful, we need a blend of the big haves, the Nikes, the Legos of this world, and the have-nots, the independents, and you've got to blend all of those incomes and what those businesses can afford into your yield, so that you can have the destination that consumers really want for the time we're living in.
Thanks for that. Johannes, your 3 recommendations for our industry.
Yeah, first of all, retail success is no longer about transactions. It's about relationships, and the long-term value of a customer is built on the experiences they have in your store. That's what we discussed today. I believe that consumption will somehow dematerialize in developed countries. So instead of spending money on a product, the majority of consumers rather spend money on experience. And that means that shopping at retail store no longer competes with the shop next door, but with it to the cinema, the park, or other leisure activities. So lucky you if you have the better experience.
Super, thanks for that. And Silvio, last but not least, what are your...
Thanks. 3 recommendations. First of all, as an entrepreneur, reduce your leverage, meaning increase equity. Times will remain volatile. All the companies will need equity. Create third places in your stores and work with umdasch. It will make you successful.
Super, thanks for that. It was a great discussion. Thanks to Tim, Johannes, and Silvio. And back to Reinhard for the last words of this session.
Okay, thanks a lot. Also from my side, many thanks for this really exciting and informative discussion. Thank you also for all these valuable ideas and inputs which we can use for our editorial work. Thank you for that. And as mentioned at the beginning, we will send a summary in the next few days, both as a text and as a short video. Many thanks again to the panelists, great panelists, and many thanks to all of you for watching. We hope that we see you soon at another Across Retail talk. Yeah, and finally, greetings from Vienna and goodbye. See you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers. Bye-bye.